boy, what is going on, everyone? It's Joshua, aka Future Filmmaker 3940 Reviews, where we talk films, TV, and music. Since I talk about my favorite films of the last decade, it only makes sense to do the absolute bullcrap movies of last decade. Now, fair warning here, you will not be seeing the Emoji Movie here on this list because I did not see it. I avoided it like the plague. And this is going to be an interesting, if controversial, top 10 list. And fair warning, there will be times where I do get pretty heated throughout. And if you like any of these movies on here, that's fine. If you love some of these, if you think they're better than why people giving them credit for, that's fine. Some of these I was anticipating, some of these I was curious, and some of them I was pretty let down, or one in particular I wasn't really interested in. So just because I hate the movies that are listed on this list does not mean I hate every movie. For some weird reason, people think just because I hate certain movies on here, I hate every movie. No, it is hard making a movie, but I'm willing to give you credit if you put your all into it. But yeah, this is easily my personal top 10 picks. Be sure to tell me in the comments below what are some of your least favorite films of the 2010s era. And with that being said, before I go into the actual top 10 list of what I personally consider to be the worst films of this entire decade, there will be some honorable mentions. And don't expect Vampire Suck to be on this list, because Vampire Suck does have flaws, but for some reason I kind of like the movie, if only for Jim Prosk. But here are my dishonorable mentions. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Boring film. Hellraiser Judgment. Stop making these Hellraiser movies. They're not good anymore. Last good one was Hellraiser 4. Paranormal Activity 6, The Ghost Dimensions, blah blah. The Amazing Spider-Man. You tried to be the Sam Raimi movies and you failed with a sledgehammer. And you completely forgotten what people really loved about the Spider-Man character in the first place. Thankfully, we got Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Far From Home to cleanse this movie out of our brains, because this was absolutely atrociously horrendous. But not as horrendous as Hellboy 2019. Should have gotten a Hellboy 3 instead of this absolute train wreck. M. Night Shyamalan, woohoo! The Last Airbender. As a fan of the Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show, this sucks as a film adaptation. As a movie on its own terms, is not the worst thing ever. But this is a complete bad film. Then Ghostbusters 2016 as another dishonorable mention. So lame and not funny. Hopefully Ghostbusters Afterlife is a better movie than this, because if you have one more shot, Sony, to give us a true Ghostbusters 3. And last but certainly not least, Transformers: The Last Frickin' Night. The only Transformers movie I do not like. Yeah, I do still have positives. I do like the music, I do like the acting, I do like the action, and I do like the effects. But the story, editing, the characterization, all of that is non-existent. And this, luckily, Bumblebee got me invest back into the Transformers series, because The Last Night almost killed me from watching another Transformers movie in this franchise. luckily we're getting sequel to Bumblebee as well as Transformers Beast Wars. But those are all of my dishonorable mentions. All terrible, boring movies just cannot make it onto this list. But my number 10 is Nick Cannon strikes with his directorial debuts of School Dance. Don't get me wrong, when I saw a trailer for this back in 2013, it actually looked pretty promising. It was actually funny from the trailer. You had Nick Cannon writing and directing this movie, and you have a good cast too. Mike Epps, Bobby J. Thompson, George Lopez, Wilder Von Morana, Christina DeBarge, Amber Rose, even Kevin Hart in his little short screen time as OG Pre-Thug. And then when I saw the movie, not only did I not laugh, except for a few times, but I was so offended by the usage of the N-word in this movie. I know this is a black black film with a black cast for the most part. I know this is a comedy and I know this is R-rated and raunchy, but I do not want to hear the N-word every 5 minutes in a comedy. And then if I'm sitting there not laughing at any of your freaking sexual jokes that you want to put in this movie, then we have a serious problem. The only good things in this movie were the performances of its cast. There were a few moments in School Dance that I actually laughed, and the soundtrack for School Dance wasn't that bad. But I am not a fan of School Dance, and then not to mention, the freaking Hater Dance song is so annoying. Number 9, Fantastic. This is easily one of the worst comic book movies I have ever seen. Say what you will about the two Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, but they at least respected this Fantastic Four property. They at least know who these characters are, and it treated the Fantastic Four like a family, and it actually got Doctor Doom right to a certain extent. Where this movie, Josh Trank, and a promising young director, and a great cast of Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, Toby Kebbell, and then promising trailers. This could have been the first great Fantastic Four movie. But then when you hear news about how the studio just came in and messed with the director's vision, they cut the budget in half, so he had to cut most of his action scenes out. You can definitely tell that there are things missing, because when you watch the movie itself, it is an absolute train wreck. And not only is a train wreck, Doctor Doom looks hilariously bad. The effects look like something out of a PlayStation 1 video game. And this movie is devoid of any action or humor. There's no fun. There's no sense of humor in this movie. You try to be what the Dark Knight and the Amazing Spider-Man also tried to be, and you failed. Because the movie didn't do well at the box office, and you tried to set up a sequel, so you failed. Fantastic, you have failed this city. Luckily, Kevin Feige and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has gotten their hands back with the Fantastic Four and as well as X-Men, because honestly, after sitting through Dark Phoenix, Fox has kind of lost its touch with the X-Men property. Even though you have New Mutants coming out, which I hope is better than Dark Phoenix, because that is the second last X-Men film we're ever going to get from the Fox X-Men canon. But I'm glad that we're going to be getting a new version of Fantastic Four done right on the big screen pretty soon. Because Fox, it's obvious to see that they just do not care for this property whatsoever, and Fantastic is just boring. Coming in 7th place, M. Night Shyamalan strikes again with After Earth. Ooh, M. Night Shyamalan. Luckily, he's back on the horse now with The Visit, Splits, and the insanely underrated Glass. But this was 2013, and After Earth, you have an interesting idea from M. Night Shyamalan and Will Smith, who also helped came up with the story. And you have Will Smith as Cypher Range. Awesome name, by the way. And you have his son, Jaden Smith, who he's trying to pass off as an actor, but the only movies I do like him in is The Day the Earth Stood Still to a certain extent, The Karate Kid 2010, and The Pursuit of Happiness. Because this movie, he's just overacting. He doesn't come off convincing as the lead, and the effects are atrocious. Will Smith is doing the best that he can, but this writing and this direction by M. Night Shyamalan is just the most generic sci-fi boring film that comes off as not entertaining, not fun, or the least bit coherent. You do have Zoe Kravitz and Isabel Fuhrman in a cameo, which is cool. And I will say that there is interesting ideas to be had in this movie. It's just M. Night Shyamalan, after The Last Airbender, he fell pretty hard with this movie, and it took The Visit, Glass, and Split for him to get back on his feet. There is a reason why Will Smith is not a fan of this movie. There is a reason why he disowns this movie. There is a reason why M. Night Shyamalan disowns this movie, and as well as The Happening. But The Happening is a better film than this because it's not an amazing film, but it's somewhat great comedy, guilty pleasure that I can enjoy. And as bad as The Last Airbender is, and trust me, I was this close to putting The Last Airbender on this list, there are moments where I can enjoy, but After Earth, no. Big fail. Coming in number 5 or number 6, The Huntsman Winter's War. This came out in 2016, and I still remember how uninterested I was, how bored I was throughout this entire movie. First of all, you did have an interesting concept. You're trying to be a sequel and a prequel, and that is the most confusing parts. But the interesting part is that you give the evil queen a sister, which she is the Ice Sister, played by Emily Blunt, who is doing the absolute best that she can with the material that she is given. But the way this movie is written, you try to make her more like Elsa. And Jessica Chastain as Chris Hemsworth's love interest and awesome, strong female lead, she's not a problem. And Chris Hemsworth is not really the problem. Luckily, Kristen Stewart, she said no and went on to do her independent films. Good for her. Because if she was in this movie, I would have felt even more sorry. Chris Hemsworth and Charlize Theron, Jessica Chastain, and the cast is trying. But it's just some of the ideas they have are not used to their full advantage. The movie becomes pretty lame at times. It's only an hour and 54 minutes. And then you try to pass this off as a Snow Queen versus the Evil Queen story, and it fails. You failed this city once again, Huntsman Winter's War. There is a reason why this movie didn't do high in the U.S. There is a reason why there has not been a third Snow White and the Huntsman movie at all. And this is what happens when you don't take advantage of something that you can make interesting and you make boring and make lazy. The only good things in here is the acting, cinematography, the action, the effects are nice, even the musical score and the soundtrack is decent. But it doesn't even come close to saving this film from being on this list whatsoever. Because any good thing means nothing when the rest of your movie, The Huntsman Winter's War, is complete and utter dog crap. And that is all I have to say about that film. Coming in fourth place is Jack and Jill, Adam Sandler. This guy can be very funny, and he can be very funny. He is a funny actor. He's a funny guy. And I haven't seen Uncut Gems yet, but I've heard lots of great things, and I do plan on watching Uncut Gems. Because this movie is easily his worst comedy he's ever done. The jokes in this movie are so not funny. Jill becomes so freaking annoying, and she annoys Adam Sandler. She annoys everyone else too. And the whole time I was sitting there, I was just like, why do you have all these good actors like Katie Holmes and Al Pacino and Shaquille O'Neal, who's not even an actor but a basketball star? How do you mess this up completely and make it suck? You just completely do a full 180, and none of your jokes are funny. None of the humor is funny. Anything in this movie doesn't even. The only thing that came close to funny was the Dunkachino commercial, and the Johnny Depp cameo was pretty cool. That is about it. That is it. Because everything else is just blah, not funny, boring. Jack and Jill went up the hill and fell asleep and angered me to the best of my abilities. And when I eventually review this for a cinematic abomination of the week part of my new series, you bet you this is going to get a very heated rant because you deserve it. Piece of crap. Stupid film. Because Jack and Jill, I don't know how some people. This movie almost took home all of the Golden Raspberry Awards. Almost. This took. Jack and Jill is not funny. I don't know how much more I can take talking about this because I've already wasted enough time. So let's just go into the top 4. My number 4 is The Bye Bye Man. The Bye Bye Man. This had an interesting idea of a killer where if you say his name or think about him, you die. And this is written by 2 contestants from Survivor and directed by Stacy Tidal. So when I saw advertisements for this had promise. This could have easily been the next big thing. This could have easily been the next Nightmare on Elm Street, the next big horror franchise, where you have a killer named the Bye Bye Man, and if you say his name or too many times or think about his name, you die. But the characters were so uninteresting. The way they executed the story was so disinteresting. Douglas Smith, great actor, but Doug Jones, even a great actor himself, is wasted. And he is the main guy. And people dying in unthinkable ways. This should have been something cool. This should have been something creepy. And it just wasn't. And you have great actors like Faye Dunaway, the legendary Faye Dunaway, Carrie Ann Moss, Douglas Booth, and the unknown actors who play in this movie. You have some talent here, and they're not used to their full advantage. And this movie was not scary. It was just PG-13 boredom. I was bored. I wasn't scared. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't creepy. It wasn't frightening. It wasn't anything that I was hoping it would be, because this is what happens when you have an interesting premise and you just rip off other movies like The Ring or The Grudge, where you have to say, don't say it, don't think it. It's just, this is just anger-inducing, frustrating to get through, and just very boring to get through. There is almost little to nothing I like in here. This is just not cool. This is not cool. This is not even the least bit remotely scary. And I have had enough talking about this thing. I do not want to ever go back and rewatch this ever again. Number 3 is Skyline. Another movie that has an interesting story. Problem is that it's directed by the brothers Strauss, who they made Alien vs. Predator Requiem, and that's not even the good movie, but it's kind of like guilty pleasure. However, does that save? Is that enough for me to give you a pass for this movie? No, it's not. This movie, what I experienced was just so dumb. The characters were so interesting. This direction was not even competent. The writing wasn't even competent. The only thing you have going for you is a few actors trying, and you have this idea of these aliens taking people, invading every city in the world. Luckily, this was managed to get a sequel, because this is a movie that was strictly made to Lifetime or Sci-Fi, and it shows in its budget. It doesn't even feel like a complete film that just angers you on the worst moments, and when they die, you don't even see how they die because it's PG-13, and just this movie is just a waste of potential here. Just like School Dance, just like Snow White and the Huntsman, just like freaking Hunt After Earth and the Huntsman vs. War. Number 2, Venom. Technically, some people is gonna say this isn't the worst thing ever, but to me, it is. To me, Venom. I wasn't even looking forward to this movie because there was no Spider-Man, and it's because it seemed unnecessary and it seemed boring and disinteresting. But Tom Hardy, great casting. He is one of the few bright spots in this movie besides Michelle Williams, who is severely underused. The song Venom by Eminem was really cool. When Venom shows up, that's where I kind of cared, but I didn't because I was still bored out of my freaking skull watching this movie. And this movie commits unspeakable crimes that I cannot forgive. This movie was heavily interfered by Sony. You could tell that this was only made just to set up a universe, and it shows. The first 40 minutes was boring. The script and dialogue was terrible, which I shouldn't be surprised since this is the writer of the 50 Shades trilogy. And the villain played by Riz Ahmed is laughably, atrociously horrendous. When Venom shows up on the screen, it's actually pretty cool. And this movie is PG-13 rated for no reason. When you have a character like Venom biting heads off in the comics, killing people in violent ways with his alien symbiotes, that is not PG-13 friendly. That should easily be a hard R. And I'm sorry, you needed Spider-Man in this movie for it to work. Now, I know they couldn't connect him at the time to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but now with the new deal with Sony and Disney and Marvel for Spider-Man to be used in both universes, you could easily connect him to Morbius, which I am excited for, and to Venom 2. And I am afraid that Venom 2 will be more of the same exact thing as this. So I do hope that the villain Carnage can be better. I do hope that Andy Serkis can make a better film than this. I am counting on him because it is still one of my least anticipated movies of 2020. And this movie shows exactly why. Boring. But now, for my number 1 worst movie of the 2010s. This is the movie that angers me the most, and it deserves to be number one for all of the right reasons. And that movie is none other than this horrible romance movie I like to call After, or The Afterbirth, or the rip-off college wannabe of Twilight 50 Shades Grey. Based on this fanfiction by Anna Todd, One Direction fanfiction that was released on Wattpad, then sold out as books to across the globe by Anna Todd. I am still in utter belief and shock. And I still cannot believe that a $14 million budget that could have went to something great went to this. This movie was painful for me to get through. I had to sit through this movie on 3 different occasions. The first time, I fell asleep because I was exhausted. The second time, I fell asleep because I was bored out of my mind. The third time, I sat through an hour and 46 minutes of the most boring, the most uninteresting, the most lazily written romance. Just because you came out in April after, don't think I have not forgotten about your sorry ass. Because this movie does everything wrong with the romance genre, especially young adult romance. I know there are some fans who do like the movie, who has read the book, or non-after readers who like the movie, and I know there are people who loves the books and who hated this movie, and those who has not read the after books and did like the movie. I'm in the minority, because when I think about this movie, I get so mad, I get so frustrated easily that a studio as Avalon Pictures and a director, Jenny Gage, and the producers actually thought this was a good idea. Now, on paper, I'll give you this. On paper, this could have easily gone somewhere about Tessa Young, who is a dedicated college student, and she decides to go to the freshman year of college, and she falls for a bad boy who she's not attracted to at first. But the problem is, I don't care about the 2 leads. And these 2 leads, Josephine Langford, who is the real-life sister of Catherine Langford, who is doing the absolute best that she can with this material to work with, and Harold Fiennes Tiffin, who is the nephew of Ralph Fiennes, who I saw Harold Fiennes Tiffin in Harry Potter and Half-Blood Prince multiple times. The problem is that they're given the 2 most unlikable, horribly written characters. Hardin comes off as a stalker to Tessa, being a creepster at the beginning of the movie, where Tessa nicely, politely asks him to leave the room, and he says, "I'm not looking." Then Tessa cheats on her high school boyfriend, which I know that is in the book, but they changed stuff here. And not to mention, she cheats on the high school sweetheart boyfriend Noah, you're supposed to feel bad for her, right? And you have this music that tries to make me feel bad for her. And just like Anastasia Steele from 50 Shades, just like her, Tessa keeps going back to this guy every single time she does something wrong. And then, that's not even the real reason why I'm so mad at After. The real reason why I'm so frustrated and so angered with this movie is because of its message to women, to girls, and to boys. The message that you send that it's okay to cheat on your high school sweetheart or your college sweetheart or anybody. That is not cool. That's not a positive message you should be sending, man. And the fact that you romanticizes abuse, and then these 2 characters are so unlikable. I didn't even care if when they were in love. I didn't care. The writing was atrocious. The direction was bad. Then this movie has so many inconsistencies and plot holes that I couldn't even keep count on how many times Tessa makes a mistake. But the only good parts of this movie, don't get me wrong, I did have some positives. Josephine Langford tried. The cinematography was good. Some of the other cast members tried. The music was nice. The production design was nice. But everything else is what makes this movie horrible, especially that message that you want to send. And then, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is how this movie ends. Because you have this twist. You're trying to pass off that they were only dating because it was a dare. No, you do not pull a twist like that and expect to get away with it. No! But the worst part of this abomination against humanity, this lazily stupid romance movie, is that it's getting a freaking sequel, and this is going to become a franchise. Of all the movies that can be a franchise, I can't believe we can't get a sequel to Dredd. We can't get a sequel to Man of Steel. We can't even get a sequel to The Nice Guys, which is a really good Shane Black movie. But we are getting a sequel. We can't even get a sequel to Alita Battle Angel yet. But yes, we're getting sequels to After. Wow. Just wow. Because I can only assure that these After movies are just gonna get worse and worse and worse and more and more and more worse. This, I was not entertained by any of this stupidity, any of this boredom, any of this freaking crap. This is a stinking pile of dog crap. Hell, I never want to watch this movie ever again after, and I'm done talking about it. So that's some extreme anger for your ass after.
There you go.
So, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this worst movies of the decades? Do you like this list? Do you not like it? What are some of your least favorites? I'm sorry if I screamed, if I went off for a little longer on my number one. Be sure to follow me on all my social media links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Stardust, Letterboxd, my merchandise store, my official website. And if you want to donate any money, send money to the channel or send fan mail, you can feel free to do so through Chime and through. You guys keep it cool and join the Epictasticness.